It's a beautiful, almost summer day. We're back here in Washington Square Park with attorney and retired NYPD officer Eric Sanders. Eric, good to have you back on the show.
Glad to be back.
How you been?
Great.
There's a lot going on that we need to talk about. Let's just do a little orbit around the park here. It is maniac season, so we can sort of check out what's going on. But I wanted to ask you, Eric, you are really in a unique position. You've been an NYPD officer, you're an attorney now. You've been involved in a lot of different lawsuits with the NYPD. Is the NYPD impervious to lawsuits? They seem to win a lot in court.
Well, I don't know if they win a lot, but remember, if you go into federal court, especially as a problem, they're a conservative bench. So believe me, they're going to more likely side with the government, unless it's something that's like really obvious. They'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Remember, they have that made-up Supreme Court doctrine called qualified immunity. But the original statute says nothing about qualified immunity. It's strict liability.
But when you say conservative bench, there's a lot of liberals in the court. You must mean something other than the traditional definition of conservatism. Right.
What I mean is the federal court itself is just conservative. Even if you have these liberals, or what people coin as liberals, no, they're more likely moderates because they still believe in the government. You see it. I've been in this business more than 20 some odd years now.
I think you're being more generous than I would. I recently had a case that went to the Second Circuit, Goodman versus the City of New York.
Right.
This was a matter where I went to Twitter headquarters November 1st, 2022, to tell Elon Musk that the FBI had illegally infiltrated Twitter, was violating everybody's First Amendment rights, everybody's Fourth Amendment rights. This was weeks before anybody heard anything about the Twitter files.
Right.
I was choked outside the building by a group, one of which struck me with a badge that our friend Sal Greco said looked like a New York Department of Corrections badge. The summons that I was given after I called the police for being choked said that an individual known to the department, one of my assailants, told the undersigned, the officer writing the summons, that the defendant, me, created a public disturbance.
Yeah, what does that mean? Case got dismissed right away.
It got dismissed right away, facially defective.
Of course.
But even worse, when I went to the 10th precinct a day or two later, I went home, I photographed my neck, red fingerprint marks on my neck from where I had been choked. And I went to the police department to file a report. One of the officers who had responded told me there was no assault, there is no evidence, there's no report to make, get out of here or we're calling Bellevue. And I sued the police. We found out that the Second Circuit has already had a finding that I've got a protected legal interest in filing a police report.
Of course.
I can't compel the police to conduct an investigation or necessarily come up with any particular outcome. But I have a protected legal interest, meaning it's my right to make a police report. So they violated my rights. Second Circuit, it went all the way to oral arguments in the Second Circuit, and they said, get out of here, Jason.
Yeah, because the courts they lean towards the government.
So we have no rights, basically.
Well, you do, but the problem is a lot of this is pro-government. They won't say it openly, but you can see it in the court rulings. But the circular law. Look, I wrote about this on our website, so it's not like I haven't said anything about
Tell
this
everybody
before.
the site.
The Sanders Firm PC. I specifically addressed judicial bias. That is a problem. People don't like to talk about it, but it's a very big problem.
Okay,
so judicial bias is a significant problem. Well, just look at the jurors down there in Atlanta get caught having sexual intercourse with the chief.
Wasn't that unbelievable?
Come on, no humility.
They're upset about the noise. Maybe if she was quiet, they wouldn't be upset. It's ridiculous. She's married too, right?
And so is he.
Terrible.
But these are the people that are making value judgments
on other people.
And assessments of other people.
It's terrible.
And this is why I write about that. So it doesn't make me a favorite guy, at least with them, but at least the general public and the litigants seem to think I'm okay. I'll fight for them. But I know what the problems are.
Okay, so they're pro-government, and then what happens when we get a situation like what's come up recently where Jeffrey Madry, former chief of department, now he's suing the city or the NYPD for not paying for his defense.
So I'm going to preface it before I say anything. I'm going to be suing Jeffrey Madden. He knows why in the Epps case. But anyway, and I've sued him before. He's got some damn nerve. He knows damn well that 50K never covered that conduct. His conduct, Eric Adams, and I know all these guys.
What do you mean 50K? That's
50K, General Municipal Law 50K. In order for you to get coverage for the city, they have to make this assessment. How can he pass the assessment? All the cases that he's being accused of is related to sexual harassment.
So the assessment is, was this a lawsuit that came about as a result of him doing his regular work?
Within the scope of the employment. No, of course not. 50K shouldn't have covered him, shouldn't have covered Eric Adams, it shouldn't have covered Timmy Pearson, shouldn't have covered any of them, and I know them all. It's nothing personal, but that's the legal truth.
Well, it's just these guys think as long as they have the badge and the hat on that they can go rape people and be
that's
covered.
The problem. That's precisely the problem. And now they're going to be held accountable, and they don't like it. See, people think it's all a joke until you have to pay for legal services yourself.
Or go through the court system.
It's one thing to sue where it's not as expensive because you may get a flat fee or you may get someone take it a contingency only. But when you're defending, you're paying hourly. It's a lot different.
And you don't know how long it's going to go
on.
No,
look at Eric Adams. His bill's in the millions.
Now, what do you think about Eric Adams going to Albania, getting Albanian citizenship? What's that about? And then now we hear that Jared and Ivanka are building some kind of island in Albania. Isn't it a haven for money laundering?
Follow the money. Whenever you see things like that, you follow the money.
It's very weird, right? Is there any other New York City mayor who's ever gone and obtained citizenship for a...
No. But the thing with Eric is that, when he does things, there's always a motive behind it. So, and I don't dislike Eric, it's just we have two different agendas. But I know him.
His agenda is a life of crime.
Yeah, me, I'm too straight. That's my problem. I'm too clean. That's always been my problem. I'm too much of a do-gooder.
So there are a lot of other lawsuits going on with the NYPD right now. Sal was telling me about how there's some... This is unique to the NYPD. The soccer mom, or any police commissioner for that matter, has the ability through administrative rule to issue subpoenas. That's unprecedented. No other police department in the country can do that, right?
Well, I haven't seen any. I'm assuming there may be one or two, but it's unique to the NYPD in the amount of the volume of the summons that they self-certify their own search warrants, which is wild. And
help people understand what that means, how that violates our rights.
And there's no appeals process, it's all internal, and they make up all kinds of stuff. And you see cases where they say, oh, well, I think this person is dealing drugs. Meanwhile, the original allegation has nothing to deal with drugs. Oh, well, I think this person is inviting the anti-terrorism law. So wait a minute, last time I checked, the NYPD doesn't enforce the anti-terrorism law. That's a federal statute. I mean, just bizarre stuff. But they issue like hundreds of thousands of these things.
So again, this is another violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? I mean, you're supposed to be...
You know the problem is, Jason, no court has ever squarely taken that on. I have a case right now, I'm going to deal with that, and that's section 14137 of the Administrative Code.
That's what Sal was talking about.
Right, and that needs to be legally challenged. The only court decision I found was a Queens case, and it's a criminal case back in the 1990s, where they initiated a criminal investigation with an administrative subpoena. And the judge said, no, you can't do that. But no federal court has ever ruled against the city yet because it hasn't been taken up. But it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think you're being quite diplomatic to say that the court is pro-government. I think it's just straight corruption. I mean, when the Constitution protects your rights and the laws protect your rights and there's just really no question.
Well, I'm in the legal business, so I said it the same way. I just said it different.
Right, right, that's true. You have to appear in front of these judges. And this video...
Oh, no, they'll tell you, I'm not afraid to say things. So that's what they do know, my reputation. But when I say pro-government, that's what I mean. They're biased. There's no question about it. You see judicial bias. You can see it in the rulings. And when you're figuring out now, all the AI is starting to expose all this stuff, because guess what the AI looks at? Logic. So they look at decisions and say, hey, this decision is internally illogical.
So what do you mean?
But then half the time they're not writing them anyway. The law clerks are writing them.
What do you mean when you're using AI as an attorney to analyze cases?
Yeah, you could take a case and look at this rule and they'll say, oh, no, this is internally inconsistent. Because they say here one thing and they say here another thing, and then this case stands for proposition this. But then who's got money to appeal? And that's why cases stall.
Well, I think they rely on that kind of a lot of the time, particularly, and that is why I believe I've been running into so much friction, because I'm a pro se.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the calculations of these courts and these professional plaintiffs, and even as defendants, the attorneys for the city, they're calculating based on, is this schmuck going to be able to even afford to get to the second
Well, they weigh
circuit?
you down. Because look, if you look at the discovery in these cases, theoretically they're supposed to take 6 months. So tell me why these cases taking 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, they're waiting for somebody to die, basically.
Well, this get extended, this happen, you leave, corporation councils come and go, especially against the city. They come and go all the time. They have a million excuses. The agencies don't give them the records. They don't even respond to the corporation council. Actually, I have a case right now where the corporation council said, these people left me in hold like 3 or 4 times for 20 minutes, a half hour at a time. They own a lawyer that represents them, by the way. But they don't care because they don't answer to anybody.
Somebody else's money paying for it also.
Yeah, the taxpayers.
Right. Well, and also, if you're calling the city and you're representing someone who's suing them, they keep you on hold. That's another way they can waste your time, waste your client's resources.
Remember, you generally can't call them directly. I'm talking about the corporation council calling them. And they represent them. And they leave them on hold. I have a case right now I'm dealing with whether or not these police officers are served. Look, I'm an officer of the court. If I tell you I did something, I did it, right? I went to the commands. I'm telling you all about the commands and who was sitting in the commands. What does that tell you? Yeah, he was there. Now, all of a sudden, they weren't served. I said, really? Oh, you want to play that little game, huh? I said, okay, so what I'll do from now on is every time the city misses a deadline, I'll move for default judgments. Oh, no, Eric, why are you doing that? Oh, why you got to be technical? I said, well, that's you want to play a silly game. So the attorney reaches out on this case, and guess what? Miraculously, 3 people said they were served.
See,
back in 2025.
They play those games all the time.
All the time.
So people have to really be prepared. I mean, that's the thing, So many people on the internet, on X or whatever, they're like, oh, sue this person. I can't wait for discovery. They have no idea what they're talking about.
It's a fight. It's a fight to go all the way through. Sometimes they're fast, but most of the time, you're in for the
years
marathon fight. You have to have the mental ability to withstand it, because it's more than the money. It's to take its toll on you, especially if you become too wrapped up in how your rights were violated. Then it becomes a problem.
An emotional toll as well.
Yeah, you have to look at it. Try to look at it. Have to. Yeah, try to look at it as a business proposition and distance yourself from it. Then the litigation is easier to deal with.
So let's go back to Sal's case, this section 1437. What exactly happened? What's he doing? What's the status on that?
Well, I'm waiting for the city to make a motion to dismiss on that case, because that's a whole nother story why I wasn't able to get the police commissioner.
But what did the city do? They were somehow tapping into his emails or his phone calls?
No, what they were doing is they wanted to look at his phone records, because according to this anonymous letter, which is ridiculous, it says, he and another police officer were planning to overthrow the government, like in the Civil War. I said,
January 6th.
I said, no, this is even before January 6th.
Oh my God.
I said, that's fascinating. I never heard that before. He's going to overthrow the government. I said,
2 guys.
2 guys.
Oh,
I said, okay. So they started investigating him. And then, of course, when they see the attachment to Roger Stone, and then January 6th and all these different things. Anyway, the bottom line is people, and this is one of the things, and this is where I'm going to say things that normal people are probably not going to like. They say all these things about Sal. And I'm not saying this because I represent him. I'm telling you because of facts. They did this whole big investigation on Sal. Big investigation. You know what they found?
Nothing.
Zippo.
Yeah.
That's what they found. He wasn't overthrowing the government. He didn't search the computer databases.
He's going to Marlins games and ordering pizza. What
he didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It's absolutely false. So what did they use to terminate him? He was associated with Roger Stone. The guy's been in politics since the 1970s. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? That's what he got terminated with. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, and by the way, it's based on a picture, because they never spoke to Roger Stone, and they claimed that, he was working as uncompensated security. And I said, well, that's kind of fascinating, because if you go back to the 60s, you see a lot of those black guys around Martin Luther King and those guys, a lot of them were cops. That's their First Amendment right. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what he was fired over. Nothing more, nothing less.
I mean, even if he was working as security, why is that not allowed?
There's no rule against it. There's no prohibition against that.
So that's the craziest thing. That's what I mean. They just make up whatever they want.
They may, because you
hang
had to
you
fight
up on
them.
that.
And then you had to go to court to convince the court that somehow the government violates your rights. Well, we're not going to tell how the police department how to run their business. And if they knew how corrupt the police department was, forget about it. They don't even have a clue. Most people don't have a clue. You have to be an insider to really understand it.
Well, and speaking of insiders, even in the case Tom Donlan's got his case, what happened there? That's on appeal in the Second Circuit.
Yeah,
why did that get dismissed?
Because he tried to go for civil RICO. Listen, civil RICO cases are very hard. Those are racketeering cases. I'm saying RICO as everyone understands. When you talk about racketeering, think Elliot Ness, think tax evasion, think criminal enterprises, businesses hiding money. That's usually what you see a traditional RICO investigation would entail, either on the civil side or the criminal side. You'll see insurance companies do that between lawyers and runners and paying off tickets and things like that. That's where you see civil RICO, not in employment matters. So I think that was an overreach, although...
On the part of Donlan's attorney.
Yeah, but he did something that does have merit. That stamp. The whole thing with the police commissioner stamp. Oh, I know that. Ray Epps has it. I put it up on the screen. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but I actually put it up on the screen. The actual stamp, oh, that's factual. So he's right on that.
Remind people exactly what that was, because a lot of people don't know.
What they were doing is they would stamp authorization under the police commissioner's name, although he wasn't signing. It was actually a stamp being used, like what they claim Bush
Almost
with
like
the stamp.
an auto pen.
Yes.
With Biden.
That's actually factual. If he'd have just come to me, I would have given him that information, but he didn't. He didn't mention my client in the papers as something that wasn't factual, which...
Did you ever work with Donlan?
No, never met him.
But I mean, he's an FBI guy, right? Wasn't he? He's an insider of some kind.
No, he's not an insider there. People don't understand. This law enforcement community is one closed group of people. And I'm talking within the agencies. I mean, if you're from law enforcement, they'll treat you halfway decent. But if you're outside the agency, it's really closed shop.
So because Donlan was FBI,
he's an outsider.
They just resented him.
Of course, they weren't going to get. And plus, you don't know what the hell is going on. People think you just go into companies. It amazes me to listen to this. I remember Bloomberg was one of these people. Oh, well, you just get a good manager and you can manage any agency. BS. That's like taking a person and put them in the CEO of a company and they have no idea what the company's about.
Or the industry.
No, you have to understand the culture. All that are factors, and that's why they all failed. Howard Safer, I can go all the way down the line back to the 90s. Howard Safer.
Well, so what about Tish? She's obviously an outsider. The soccer mom.
This is her little chess piece. She knows
and
zero
then
about
Donnie,
police work.
he's an outsider.
Nah, he doesn't know. Well, he's not supposed to run the police department. That's the problem. The police department is too political.
But
now.
Eric Adams basically ran. Eric Adams came in there. He figures he's an NYPD insider.
No, he was
he can break
transit
whatever laws
guy.
he wants.
He's a transit guy.
But they joined up with NYPD.
I know that. It's a big difference between pre-merger people and after-merger. Pre-merger, they were all in the trains. That's it. Housing was very separate.
So again, just so people watching can catch up, the transit police and the NYPD merged sometime in the 1990s.
Yep, and in 1996.
And so NYPD officers have very little respect for transit officers.
Well, that's a whole nother cultural thing. Transit, housing, because remember, Housing Authority had their own police agency, the transit police had their own agency, and then the NYPD. Although we all went to the same academy, it still was always this thing about...
So did this merger bring efficiency, or did it just create a culture clash?
No, it brought efficiency, because now you don't see the same things going on, because now you have the radios are compatible with each other. They could talk down the subways. Before you couldn't do that. You go on the Housing Authority, you get these dead spots. So now you don't really see that much anymore.
Isn't that just an advance of technology?
Yeah, but more than advance of technology. Now they're programming these radios. They weren't doing that before.
Okay.
So if you go on a transit, it's as good as having no radio. Although the other problem, since we're actually walking down towards Grand Central, That's another farce that people see. All these National Guard people running all over the place. I said, look at this.
Should we go up in there and check
Yeah,
it
it doesn't
out?
matter. Yeah. There's a bunch of, National Guard all over the place. I said, yeah, what are they going to do for you? Zero. They may have a memorandum of understanding, but they can't even communicate. So you have the state police, one agency, can't communicate with the MTA police, the Metropolitan Transit Authority police have their own agency, and then you have the National Guard. 3 different groups. No one can communicate with each other. So they have to carry a radio from the other agency in order to be able to communicate. And they theoretically can't take police action because National Guard people are not police officers.
They can't arrest people.
Well, they could technically, but they're civilians, remember. So technically, they have to understand all the laws. And
yeah, they don't have the training.
Ooh.
And they certainly don't have the training to interact with the public,
Of course not, no. So they can't take action. Matter of fact, they don't want them to take action. They're there for omnipresence.
Just
omnipresent, just the presence.
Just to have a bunch of guns around.
Well, I mean, remember, that's the concept of policing, omnipresence, the
deter crime.
The theory is to deter crime. That's what the idea behind, that's the Peel model, by the way. That's the London Peel model. So you put them in a uniform? No. Well, it does and it doesn't. It has mixed results. The problem is no one can point to any objective analysis that shows you whether police policy have a direct impact on crime. Although Tish and all these people walk around taking credit for it, they can't point to one policy.
Well, isn't it manipulated statistics to begin with?
It's garbage. Any statistician will tell you, or criminals will tell you, yeah, we could tell you the crime is going down, but there's a multitude of factors that occur in order for crime to go down.
How many people are moving out of the city?
Weather, age, better socioeconomic wealth. I mean, there's a bunch of factors. It's not the police go there and all of a sudden crime stops. If that's true, then why are the homicides happening? Why do the robberies happen? As soon as the police leave, I thought your policies were good. They don't want to take credit for that, though.
Well, and also I think a lot of it has to do with not just the police. It has to do with, we now have 5 or more years of essentially a generation of people understanding that there's a lot of crimes you can do that aren't even going to get prosecuted.
Yes, yep.
Because you've got Alvin Bragg and Letitia James who just want to, get Trump and not deal with any violent crime or...
Well, I think it's more complex now. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you take that position, right? Remember Bratton and Kelly when they were here? They were more, the broken windows. But if you speak to the guy who actually thought about this hypothesis, he'll tell you what they were doing was all wrong anyway. But save that for a minute. Assuming you want to take that theory, this is why we still have the Floyd lawsuit, the Logan lawsuit, and Ligon lawsuit.
What are those lawsuits?
Well, the Floyd was a stop and frisk by race.
Not George Floyd.
No, Floyd. It's a Bronx case. You have Ligon, which is a housing, the clean halls, and all these things. There's at least 4 different pending lawsuits that's still being monitored to this day by the federal monitor. And guess who's paying for that? The taxpayers.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, everyone likes to say how Kelly and Bratton was so great. No, they cost us millions. And by the way, Mylan Dennerstein is the special monitor. Meanwhile, remember when she was a fire commissioner? I love those political jobs. I wish I could get me a political job like that. Make me a couple $1 million.
Was that short lesbian who was never in the fire department?
No. She's a black woman. She was a fire commissioner. She was with Obama. Then she got that job, and then she worked for Cuomo at some big job, and now she's doing it. I want to make a couple $1 million. All I could do is write reports. Did you see the report about the CRT that they haven't reported in years? Yeah, that's what she.
The critical response team. What did that report say?
They haven't monitored and they haven't reported to anybody in about 3 or 4 years. Well, no kidding. I wrote about that, and all of a sudden you saw a newspaper article about it. I said, I guess if I was a writer by trade or a news guy, I beat them to the punch. They're like a day late and $1 short.
No, but isn't Mamdani disbanding the CRT or something like that?
No, but people have to understand how these things work. The concept of policing is actually a science. It's really a social science. There's concepts on how to manage people, right? It's not just you see a whole bunch of cops out there, and there's actually some thought behind this. Whether it works all the time, no, there's definitely thought behind it. There's all kinds of stuff behind it. They also come up with and say, we're just going to throw people out there. The problem is when you're dealing with human dynamics, that's the part you don't necessarily control. So Mondami, and they'll say, oh, we're disbanding this. Yeah, but what they really all do is recapitalize
Change the name.
Yeah, that's all they do. That's
Move the
policing.
people around and do the same thing.
This policing concept has been the same since 1645. I wrote about this, the Dutch rattle watch.
What is that?
Well, the Dutch rattle watch, if you go back to the Dutch Indian Company, remember when
Oh, the Dutch
go
rattle
all the
watch.
way, Dutch
I thought you
rattle
said
watch.
the death rattle watch.
No, Dutch, the Dutch
Well, I
rattle
think
watch.
we're looking at the death rattle watch here in New York City. It's in the throes of death rattle.
But yeah, so the concept
is that a Waymo? Look at that. A
it's an
self-driving.
Apple. It's an Apple. No, it's an Apple map, like the Google map, so they can map the streets.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, cameras on top. You see the Google cars riding around too. Now it's the first time I've seen an Apple car. See, Apple Maps.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, it's just surveillance everywhere, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Flock
What was that?
cameras.
Running Man. What was that movie? The Running Man and those other movies. They showed all this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now we see we're overloaded by information everywhere, cameras and information. So, but the bottom line is the concept of policing really has not changed. It's the same. It's still the same. That's why we have corruption. Go, oh, why can't we stop corruption? Because it's built on corruption. All you got to do is understand the concept of policing, and that goes back to the Dutch rattle watch. Do the research. And it's not Eric Tanner's making up. There's actually documents to support. I put it on my website so you can see it. And the police department, NYPD, acknowledges it.
We're getting power washed.
Yeah, but
That guy doesn't care. He's just spraying everybody on the street.
I know, he should have stopped whenever people walk by. But
Yeah,
you
he
know,
should have.
That's what you're dealing with, see? But no, if you look it up and talk about the Dutch rattle watch, it was based on the concept of protecting property, not people, property. And this is why you see corruption will never be solved anywhere. It's not just NYPD, it's everywhere. Just look it up.
So you mentioned AI, and we just saw that Apple car. Have you been using AI in your
Of
work
course.
as an attorney?
Yeah, it makes sense because it gets you to see inconsistencies in arguments more than people
Well,
think.
what do you mean? How are you using it? You load your cases in there?
Different. I load cases in there, I load court decisions in there, I do all kinds of stuff with it.
And which
actually.
AI are you using?
Well, I use Chat GPT. I look at Google sometime. You know, it all depends.
Has it improved your practice, do you think?
It makes it much faster, much faster.
And are a lot of attorneys doing that?
I think so, but I actually wrote about that too on my website. I wrote about even judges are starting to use it now. In the federal courts, at least a third. But that doesn't mean that's a true number.
A third of judges?
Yes,
or?
but that doesn't mean that's a true number because remember, that's self-reported. There's people who won't necessarily say they use it, but there's nothing wrong with it.
I thought they frown on AI because it's giving fake cases and stuff like that.
No, it's substantially improved. Anyone who says that, they really don't understand how the
looked at it in
language.
a few years?
They don't understand how the large language models
So
work.
I guess it's like video as well. When it first started, Will Smith eating spaghetti looked like a mess. Now it looks like a real movie.
You know, you gotta remember the way lawyers think. That's a protections market. They like you to believe that
Only they
everything
can
is
do
so complex.
Right.
Why do you think I write so much free stuff on my website? I do that for a reason.
Remind everybody of the website.
Oh yeah, the Sanders Firm PC. This is
.com.
why I talk about so many things on there because it's all free.
And so when you represent people, if there's anybody out there watching who needs an attorney, what are your specialties in law?
What I expect, what?
What are your specialties in law?
Oh, okay. Well, look, I represent a lot of police officers. That doesn't mean all of them, but I represent a lot of them on the federal, state, and local level, especially the state police and NYPD people. Because believe it or not, they have their set of employment problems just like all these other employers. They're no different, actually. Matter of fact, it's more complex because they're dealing with not just employment matters, they're also dealing with public corruption issues because there's always something going on in police work. Drugs, money, shakedowns, payoffs, drugs, you know, I mean, yeah, it's got this unique set of problems. And remember, I told you it's a closed culture, right? They don't trust many people outside the police culture,
Right.
and I've been on both sides. And they know I'm a very straight shooter. And I don't represent cops, they engage in misconduct, and so they know I'm a straight shooter, not a game player. I'm known as having a very tough reputation.
We were talking on Sal's show about Richie Taylor, and his involvement with the Brooklyn Children's Jewish Museum, we found out that that thing, obviously it's a museum, so it's connected to a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's got this tremendous asset in the building that the museum is in. It really stands out like a sore thumb in that neighborhood in Brooklyn. It's a lot of very, 3-story older buildings, and then we have this gigantic $39 million monstrosity there. There's a lot of evidence that might cause the average observer to think there's some corruption going on there.
Well, that area has always been a problem with those things, but then, you don't rarely see any investigation.
You mean the area of non-profit religious stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, it is a particular problem because there's not a lot of oversight.
Nope.
And because it's religion, whatever the religion is.
Then they'll come out and say, oh, you're doing it to me because, I'm Pentecostal. You're doing it because of this.
Jewish, whatever.
Yeah, they try to throw up the curtains of what's really happening. That's one of the greatest tax havens around.
Right. But that's also the same, it's right across the street from the Chabad, where they had that whole thing with the tunnels being dug underground.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever happened with that? We
I don't
never
know.
really...
You remember, you only
just
saw
sort
it
of
in
got
the news
covered
cycle,
up.
and that was it. Heard nothing else. Yeah.
So there's all these things that happen that just silently go away.
Well, just like, look at you talk about Richie Taylor. They say, oh, he had to pay back $20,000. That's a fraction.
nothing.
A fraction of what he's accused of doing.
It's the cost of doing business.
My sources tell me he was
Millions?
missing probably about $700,000. 2.5 to 3 years he's disappeared. And that's not including the misuse of department equipment, the helicopters, and everything else. And of course, there's no investigation. Come on. That's why it's a 2-tier system.
It's unbelievable. So, I mean, and again, he's fairly high up in the police department.
Of course, he's an executive.
Nothing compared to, Letitia James, who's the state attorney general. She's been accused of spending over $20 million on outside law firms. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's why I keep saying, I feel like I'm the dummy. I'm too honest. That's my problem. Way too honest. I don't try to get government work. I don't go hang out with attorneys. By the way, I don't hang out with attorneys. I don't go to legal stuff.
What about Consul Frito? You don't hang out with ex-mob bosses either?
Nope. Yeah. I have a very close circle of people. Just my old partners, my cousin who retired from the police department too. Other than that, I don't go outside that group too much. Not that I don't know people. No, it's just generally I'm very private, and more importantly, I'm a very honest, straight shooter. So I don't go to things, no.
It's a lonely business.
No, I'm fine.
I'm saying, being honest, there's just not that many people.
Yeah. People think they can call me up and tell me your own kind of thing and I'm going to go for it. And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
So we've got a changing of the guard in the U.S. Attorney General. It was announced yesterday Donald Trump is going to nominate Todd Blanche, not just to be the interim, but to take over the position permanently. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to tell you something. I'm very disappointed in him. I'm going to tell you why.
In Blanche or
because,
Trump? Or
no,
both?
I'm disappointed in Trump. One of the things I like about him, I voted for him, so you'll see it. They go, oh, Rick, you don't know. I have a functioning brain in my head. They're all a bunch of thieves as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't matter which way they're going to steal.
It's true.
But one of the greatest motivators things that why I voted is because it was time for change.
Yeah.
That's why.
But we've got no change.
Right. And the first time was okay. This time, I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
It's like you're putting all your friends in these places. They're doing all this outlandish
His son's
stuff.
doing business.
They're not qualified. The son go from a couple $100 million to now billions of dollars with the drones and all this kind. Come on, man. I mean, seriously. But this is why I say. That's why you never hear me say left, right, low information. I don't say none of that stuff. You know why? Because it's all the same. I learned that in theory. In sociology. They'll talk about, well, moderate is this. Conservative is this. No. And I remember my sociology professor talked about it. He says, no, they're just different social dynamics and classification, but they all go for the same thing, which is how to spread the wealth within their groups. So they're no better than the others. They're all the same, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, but let's stay focused on Todd Blanche for a second, because he is an SDNY guy.
Yeah, so.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a lot of corruption, I think, in the SDNY, and he basically Trump didn't know him before he got involved in the Stormy Daniels case.
Right.
And Blanche has done nothing at all to advance the concept of an indictment against Norm Eisen or Andrew Weissman or, all the people who were involved in bringing that.
Well, look at all the parties that are going on. Just as fast, okay, advance the indictment and then they go out the back door with pardons. I mean, look, the biggest problem is, and this is something that we'll probably never get past.
Let's get
in
onto
life.
the shady side. Huh?
Okay, we'll never get past in life is that you're always going to have the groups of people who control things, right? Because they're in a position of power and the decision makers, and they write policies, and the people who have to follow these policies. And this is what the problem is. You hope that there's going to be change. You hope there's a brighter day, but as soon as you make the change and put in different people, they just do the same thing, and it just change how they steal the money. And
But the thing is, it doesn't even seem like this is in Trump's interest. Todd Blanche, when he wasn't in the Southern District of New York, he went to work at WilmerHale. That's Robert Mueller's law firm. Is Trump not paying attention? He wants to shoot himself in his own foot?
Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about. If the public, if they're following this, they're all from the same club. They just happen to switch sides. Oh, at least for the public. Right, for the public. Oh man, I can't believe those guys. They're so corrupt. And then they're back there having a drink and steak and lobster together and having caviar. So look at these dummies out here. They believe this nonsense.
So you mentioned a lot of people are saying that Bill Pulte is not qualified for this Director of National Intelligence job, but I think Bill Pulte has been doing a very good job. He's started the investigation, or really advanced the investigation, into Letitia James and her mortgage fraud.
Yeah, it becomes here we go with the personal stuff again.
But is it personal?
But they don't
There's a lot of evidence that she's done crime.
No, because they looked at her. Look at all these other people. See, my point is,
but she's the top law enforcement officer. Doesn't she need to be held to a higher
standard? But it was
standard?
done for a specific reason. My point is, and I keep saying this over and over again, there's a big difference between an objective prosecution
I sent that information
and targeted. That's fine, but she's a specific person. I guarantee you, if you look at all the mortgages, half of them are just like that, no different.
I don't know about that. There was evidence that she faked her father's death.
I know, but see, everyone likes to believe their version, but this is why the citizens come along and say, we're not indicting. Because you know what they use? Common sense. And they go, no, this is not right.
But is that true, or is it just that it's a jury of all these kind of idiots who are out here riding their
they're not.
bicycles
It is
on the
their
sidewalk?
citizens. No, they have citizens, and they have an opinion too. And their opinion is just as valid as anyone else under the First Amendment.
What about the law?
Yeah, you know what happens? See, this is what everyone likes to do. Oh yeah, the law. Yeah, okay, the law is what? To do what? To enforce it, right? But when people see it's being unfairly enforced, you know what the people do? They reject the government. That's the way it's been since the turn of time. That's how the United States was formed, wasn't it? People forget that. How do you think the United States was formed? Of course. They say, no, you guys are abusing your power. Jury nullification. O.J. Simpson. Oh, yeah? He did it? Oh, yeah, he may have done it, but you know what? We don't like what you did. Jury nullification.
I think he did do it. It didn't
No,
at the
but
time it was happening.
My point is that there's a mechanism in place, and no one likes to talk about it, called jury nullification.
Well, it's rarely invoked, isn't it?
No, it's invoked more than people say.
Is it?
Of course it is. There's some studies done on it, but most juries don't talk about it. Unless they happen to sit and talk to you, they'll tell you. Like, for example, look at Harvey Weinstein. What happened with his cases?
I don't know.
Think about it. No, he wasn't found guilty. Those retrials wind up with not guilties or mistrials.
I don't know the facts of the case.
Well, that's the one where they're Me Too. Well, that wasn't a true Me Too.
I know vaguely.
But my point is the juries rejected them. They said it's an overreach. That's why there's jury trials. That's why you have.
Well, what about Trump and E. Jean Carroll? Those people have an opinion, but it involved changing the law. Someone with completely not credible evidence coming forward 30 years after the alleged fact.
Well, that's the.
We can't just leave everything to everybody's opinion.
No.
We have to have laws.
Well, the laws are based on opinions, based on what people think are going to be societal norms. That's what laws are. They're not anything other than that. They don't come out of the air.
Right.
There's history. There's studies done on this stuff. The problem is when they create that law, they wrote it for a very specific reason, and then it wind up snagging other people. See, and that's what happens when you create laws for people. It may have an unintended consequence. What was the thing I was talking about recently about unintended consequences? There was some law I was talking about. Oh, 50A. 50A was written for the concept of, well, you can get the police records and then it should help you with your criminal cases.
But people are weaponizing against the cops.
Oh, no, that's not what I was going to say. It's being used in an unintended consequence. You know who's being used by the most? Police officers.
What do you
This
mean?
is because they're suing for employment discrimination. Now they're finding out about
How
their
much
colleagues.
everybody earns?
Not how much they earn, how they're getting over with discipline. This one's committing arson, that one's doing this. They're not terminated, they're still working, but they terminated this one. That was an unintended consequence. That's what I'm talking about. So when the ACLU went after and they wanted to create that law and convinced the legislators to do it, and the Court of Appeals upheld it in 2020, they said, oh, and I was just talking to Sal about this. I said, guess what? It's an unintended consequence. Now I could write a lawsuit and put 30 comparators that I never would have known about.
Right.
Because I'll have to get it through discovery. Now I don't have to get it through discovery. I can actually look it up online and find it.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Beautiful.
all part of the information age, I guess, right?
Yeah, but my point is that laws have unintended consequences. So when the drafters do it, they think about this, but they don't think about how it can be used, because human beings are cunning. They can use and manipulate things to their advantage. And that's why you always had this recurrent cycle of things like corruption.
I mean, I guess anything would have unintended consequences.
Oh, sure. That's AI, phones. I mean, we can go on and on.
Right.
My point is that as long as you have a concept or a piece of equipment, it could be manipulated by human beings.
It's true. Well, yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the case. Right? So let's talk about January 6th a little bit more. What about this this anti-weaponization fund that Todd Blanche said he wants to basically shut down?
Oh, he said he wants to shut it down?
He said in a congressional hearing or a Senate hearing that the government is not moving forward with it. But because Trump said he likes it. And what is today? The 4th? Tomorrow is the date that the judge gave that the Trump team needs to come forward with their opposition to the. Remember, those 35 judges came into the case. That's crazy too. We got to talk about that. Non-party movements came into the case seeking relief under Rule 60, a post-judgment ruling, saying that there's fraud on the court.
Exactly.
So now they said,
that can always be
withdrawing the
unraveled.
fund, but they still have to deal with the accusation of fraud. There could be sanctions.
Yes, because what they wanted to know, and I was very surprised to see this, the IRS settled. The federal government very rarely settles with anyone.
There's a valid question as to whether there was an adversarial, a sufficient controversy there. It does seem to have been settled quite quickly. It raises another question.
Well, what the judge was interested in, because someone leaked it. See, this is why leaks are important. Someone leaked it from the Department of Justice that there was a 25-page memorandum showing all the ways that lawsuit can be attacked. Not just collateral, a frontal attack.
It was obvious.
And they settled anyway.
Well, but the point is, it reeks of being a setup. Like, Trump is not paying attention, and attorneys like Todd Blanche and other attorneys around him are making these horrible deals so that then his political opponents can say, oh, look, this is corruption. Let's get sanctions against Trump. Now, if the Democrats take the House in the midterms, they're going to impeach Trump over this slush fund.
Oh, yeah.
Alleged slush fund.
He's heading towards impeachment.
Nobody's getting any money from it.
Nope.
And they continue to, make hay out of January 6th.
And this is why I don't associate with lots of attorneys. Because some of these people are so motivated by money, they'll sell their whole integrity for everything.
They have no integrity.
That's right, they have zero. And that's the problem. So they'll sell their integrity. Who cares? We have enough power to put a stop to this. And they worry about their next job. When I leave, you're going to hook me up and put me in this corporation, give me this job or that job. And we mean nothing. The people out here mean nothing.
Yeah.
We're just the pawns in the game.
See, but the ironic thing is, Eric, that compensation fund, it wasn't a January 6th compensation fund. It was a anti-weaponization, anti-lawfare. There are a lot of people who have potentially valid claims of weaponization of the justice system, there's a lot of ways that could have been set up.
But they would have to make their own individual claims. You just can't come along and say, oh, I think this is wrong, and let's just set up a fund. No.
What they had to do is
Congress should do that.
They should. That's of course a different approach, but in this case, what should have been done is the lawsuit should have gone to trial and allow a judge and a jury.
Well, that's the point. It would have been dismissed. That's why they did it.
That's why they did it this way.
And then when the judge questioned, they withdrew it. figuring out the Rule 41
It's
that if you
so
withdraw it,
obvious. Any first-year law student could look at this and see that it's a problem.
Of course,
I think Trump is not paying any attention.
As soon as they were talking about it, then the next thing you know, they withdrew lawsuit because technically, under Rule 41 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, when you withdraw, that deprives or it takes away the power of the federal
jurisdiction.
court, right? The jurisdiction, right? So,
but that's why it's a question that these judges can bring it back under Rule 60.
But one thing you don't relieve of a court fraud. They can unravel a case 100 years ago if it's fraud. So
they're a non-party.
Non-parties too.
They haven't even granted them. They haven't even granted them amicus status.
Listen, the people that wrote the Constitution back then, genius. That thing is a living document. It may have been written and, enacted in 1776, but that document is living. I mean, they really almost thought about everything that's even applicable to today.
It's getting trampled today. But let's stay on this weaponization thing because I think it is important. Every point you've raised is correct, that yes, they have post-judgment jurisdiction over fraud, inherent authority over fraud to enforce all this. But I mean, this is literally a legal alley-oop. And the guy who is representing all of these judges, one of the people behind this whole thing, once again, is Norm Eisen.
Right.
And Norm basically sits on the top of this mountain of all of these in my view, improperly organized nonprofits.
Yes.
Where you've got a 501c3 public nonprofit entity sponging off of public funds.
Oh, let them go by.
Linked up with 501c4 political action committees and other, 501c4 things that can take political action. And they just basically use this to bring politically partisan law firms. They've essentially created a law firm masquerading as a nonprofit. They infiltrate the Department of Justice, or they still have people. You said there's leakers, there's people who are still loyal to these folks. Many of the attorneys who go join these nonprofits are the fired Department of Justice attorneys who set up all the January 6 people in the first place. And so now they've set up Trump with this idiotic lawsuit, get everybody frothing at the mouth over $1.8 billion. They know Donald Trump well enough at this point that to say, you know what, we'll present it to him as $1.776 billion, and he'll say it's a great idea. Everybody associates it with Trump. We call it a slush fund, and then we'll impeach him over this. And Trump buys it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, because to me, the best ally you can have next to you is someone who's really willing to tell you, wait a minute, that's absolutely wrong.
Yes.
But the problem with people at that level
get fired.
is they get so many yes people around them because they want to see the stream of money come through, that they get motivated by the money and they're not motivated by the individual, just to keep them giving them the money. All of them. Celebrities have the same problem. They have too many yes people around them.
Yeah, I mean, really what Donald Trump needed to do is he may have a claim against the IRS, but we don't know that it's $1.78 billion in damage.
Well, that's just like when he settled with what was it, ABC, CNN.
Well, but these are private entities.
But the point is, the only reason why they gave money because these defamation lawsuits are 99% losers. But they settled. I mean, come on. Because what? What can you do?
Yeah, but
get the FCC investigate. Come on, it's not rocket science. It really isn't.
So a president is not allowed to sue anybody?
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that 99% of defamation lawsuits get dismissed in all states because of the New York Times standard, Sullivan versus New York Times. That's reality. So what? They said he's a bad person. Doesn't matter. Until they change that standard.
I mean, I think the key problem, though, in the case of Trump versus IRS is that they're saying, wait a minute, we've never had a case where the chief executive has sued an entity that he actually controls. That's not clear that meets the standard of being sufficiently adversarial and having a case in controversy where, and I mean, look, the way it looks, the optics, as you said, it's terrible. He was.
See, his problem, he wants to have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Everyone wants things both ways, and that's just not the way the world works. He wants to be the president, have immunity, but then he wants to assert legal claims as he's a private citizen. How does that make any sense? No,
Again, I
you
think
could
this
bring your
case was a
claims.
setup.
You could bring your claims. Bring them when you get out of office. Oh, wait a minute. You want immunity or you don't want immunity? Oh, you want to play the parsing game. And that's when the people, you remember, citizens, they don't care about legal technicalities. You know what they care about? It doesn't smell right. If it doesn't smell right, they're going to reject it. Which is why you have all these people rejecting all this stuff now. Because it doesn't smell right. It looks like you're self-peddling.
Well, again, I just think it's a setup. And, you know, he's got Todd Blanche there. I don't know if Blanche was personally involved in this anti-weaponization lawsuit, but I just don't see how any competent attorney, even if it's not a setup,
Right.
it's like your client is Donald Trump. This is like the most sued guy on planet Earth.
Yeah, you advise
You've
against
got to
that.
know that this is not going to fly.
No. All those cases, no, you tell them, no,
You know,
Just
you
like the
can't-
thing with E.J. Carroll.
Yeah.
First of all, I think she was awarded way high, $85 million. Are you serious?
I just
That's
don't
not
think she
right.
had any evidence.
That's right. That's my point. The average person would
and
never
they
get that
changed
kind.
the statute of
Yeah,
limitations
come
for a week
on.
or
That's
something.
that's like ridiculous already.
But
and
it's
I'm
the
not
same
saying,
people.
And I'm not saying she may not be a victim, but all these other victims have physical things happen to them. They don't get $85 million. Where did that come from? Now that's where he wasn't treated fairly, just like Tish James with that dumb case with the valuation of the property. Oh, it's only worth this amount of money. The lot itself is worth $130 million. What are you talking about? Well, you see what happened. Egron got overturned.
You're talking about Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, well, you remember the false representation on his taxes and all. Stop
Right.
it already. You're being ridiculous.
No, that's what I
The
mean.
values
all
are too
of
high.
these cases are made up.
Yeah.
So we talk about, you know, I got into a back and forth on X yesterday with Hunter Biden.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
He's still around?
He said, you know, oh, Donald Trump Jr. is doing this kind of investment where he's getting money from the Pentagon, and Eric is bringing this Israeli drone company public while we're at war with Iran.
Yeah.
And I said, look, you're bringing up valid points.
Yeah,
I
he's
agree.
right.
That
He's
shouldn't
right.
be happening. But and his Hunter Biden's point was, and everybody's upset about my paintings. And I said, look, you're bringing up valid points. The president's son should not be doing business like that. But it's not your paintings that people are worried about. It's all these business dealings with gas and oil companies in Ukraine.
That's right. Yeah. Come on.
And then
He's
all
sidestepping
of
the
these
issue.
lunatics came into the comments saying, oh, no, we have to prosecute the Trumps who don't care about Hunter Biden anymore because he's not in power anymore. But what I'm saying is, no, we can't work it like that.
No, that's right.
Because what's happening is we let Hunter Biden go, so
Yes.
then Don Jr. and Eric say, well, we'll just get preemptive pardons when our father leaves
Exactly.
office. So we'll steal all the money we can right now,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on and on. If we
Yeah.
want to prosecute
Yeah.
or at least investigate what's going on with Don Jr. and Eric, we got to talk about Hunter Biden, we got to talk about Chelsea Clinton, we got to talk about Barack and Michelle
That's
Obama,
right.
Bill and Hillary Clinton,
That's right.
George W. Bush,
That's right.
anybody in the Dick Cheney family.
That's right.
You know, we
you
can't just say Trump.
You mean Mr. Halliburton?
Yeah, all of these people. And it becomes this just ongoing grift.
Right. And it becomes, I'm in power, so now I can ding you. I'm in power, now I
Right.
can ding you.
Right.
And then all the suckers, all us out here, we're paying for all this garbage.
That's right.
These stupid investigations, whatever that means, these reports, these commissions, all the same nonsense. Just wasting the taxpayers' money. Just another way to take money from us.
So,
Doesn't
Eric,
get us
how long
anywhere.
have you lived in New York City?
Oh, my whole entire life.
Half a century,
Yeah,
more.
I've been here
Me
ever.
too. And so, what's your outlook? How things? We got Mandami now. The city's kind of in a bad place. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know about that. You know, people have these opinions about him. I don't know him personally, and you know, I'm not a political guy.
What about this socialist grab? If he doesn't like the way someone's running their apartment building, he's going to give it to a nonprofit that's stealing millions of dollars already.
Well, see, this gets into philosophy again, and that sounds like it's good. Like he's grabbing, so he's not grabbing anything. The government is doing it because there's
He
laws on the book.
represents the government as the mayor.
There's laws on the book. It's in the Fifth Amendment, eminent domain.
But they don't follow the laws. They just
know,
do whatever they
but
want.
you're asking me, I'm answering the question.
Okay.
There's a Fifth Amendment, eminent domain, that if you leave these properties dilapidated, they're not managed the way they should be, and people living under poor conditions, what do? You either bring it up to code, or I guess the government should take it, right? Well, then you say, oh, I don't want them to take my property. Well, why don't you maintain your property? I can't afford it. Oh, okay, so what are we supposed to do here? Go into circular reasoning? Something's got to happen, but you want to collect the benefits of money, and then you don't want to do it to
Eric,
upkeep.
you've been in court more than most people. You've
Yeah.
seen them, they say whatever they want to say. The facts don't matter. The law doesn't matter.
Huh? That's right. Well,
It seems like they're laying out a plan to just take people's
But
property.
I see it on all sides. See, this is why I can say this, because I see it all ways. People, human beings in general, want to have it all ways. They want to be able to benefit, but don't want the accountability coming with it. See? And that's the government, that's politicians, that's bankers, that's everybody, police officers, it's people in general. That's the problem.
So here we are, Grand Central Station.
Yep.
We'll go in there, we'll check it out.
Hey,
Here we have
Jackie Onassis.
We got the light here.
Yeah. It's Jackie Onassis president. Present from Kennedy.
Redecorating this?
No, built this whole thing.
This
is a present. The Jackie Onassis.
Huh.
You know that? There's
I
a
think
sign.
I
There's a
did.
sign.
I think I did. Yeah, I've seen that.
There's actually a sign. There's actually a sign in there that shows it too.
Yeah, I think I have seen that. Might be right
Matter
there.
of fact, there's one.
Yeah, that's right.
You see it? That's right. It's a present. So those who didn't know about the history, see?
So let's see what's going on inside.
Yeah, and there's the actual sign over here.
Where's that?
Yeah, see, this whole thing was built for Jackie Onassis. This is a present.
That?
Yeah, I like this building. I'm a train enthusiast. I love trains. I ride them all day long. That's how I should have been either a pilot, finish military college, or operate trains.
Were you in the military?
I was a Marine ROTC. I should have finished. I could have been flying jets all over the world. No, I'm a sucker. I want to help people. Now I became a police officer like a sucker. And now I'm helping people as a lawyer.
Here's the National
Yeah,
Guard.
see? It's just presence. They have no authority to do anything in here. Zero.
Well, they got a gun. They can shoot people.
Well, and they don't want them taking those sidearms out either, or the long guns. So believe me, all that smoke and mirrors. They want the MTA police to take action. And even the state police, because you don't see them in here that much like you used to, but even the state police, the same thing. It's one thing, state police is not local police is. It's different ball game. That's what people make the mistake.
What do you mean?
What I mean is there's different concepts of policing. And people, when you're doing urban policing or like volume like this, people have rights, you just don't just toss them all over the place. You give them a lot of latitude you normally wouldn't give in other agencies, so it's a lot different. The First Amendment is really there, and I mean they really believe in it, so it's like a rolling concept. And sometimes you have impromptu demonstrations and things like that, and no, it's a lot different. You have people taking pictures. There's all kind of activities going here all the time. People going walking back and forth, tourists in here taking pictures, schemers, people committing crimes in here. You just have to pay attention really closely to them. So yeah, you got everything in here.
Well, Eric, it's been a pleasure speaking to you as always. I think this might be a good spot to wrap it up for today.
Okay.
We'll have you back soon, and good
Sounds
luck
good.
with all the cases.
Have fun.
And just tell everybody one more time how they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter. I'm on Esquire_Sanders, I believe it is. And the Sanders Firm PC, that's my website.com. You could Google me, lawyer Eric Sanders, you can find me. So
Yeah, you find you easily actually with Google.
Yeah, very easy.
And don't forget, you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth.